afternoon. How's it going, everyone? Welcome back. I wanted to make this video because it's kind of a relevant topic at the moment, but also tomorrow I'm getting third surgery, so I won't be able to talk for a little bit after that, and I figured might as well use my voice while I got it. If you're new here, hi, I'm Miles. I do music stuff. And one of the things that I want to talk about is the topic of music marketing. The idea that the companies that you're purchasing products from, how they go about promoting those products and getting general customers excited about what they have in store for them to purchase. And how certain companies are doing it wrong. I've talked about this company in regards to this subject before, but the company Neural DSP and their recent rollout in promotion of their new product, the Nano Cortex. So at Neural DSP, when they're rolling out a new product, their usual go-to promotion approach is to have a series of posts on their social media accounts where the first one is a silhouette of the product and it says soon. And then the next day it says sooner with another silhouette. And then the next day after that, they announce what the product is, and then it's everywhere. All of a sudden, every YouTube guitarist in the world has a video doing a review or going over their presets that they made for that product, whether it be a plugin or something that's in the quad Cortex. They didn't do that this time around. Instead, what Neural DSP thought would be a great idea was to roll out a promotional movie where it was like 25 minutes long and didn't give any sort of inkling as to what the product was. It was just an excuse to make a long form video that didn't really leave anyone excited for what they had to announce later in the week. And they called that video Soon. And then the next day they put out another one called Sooner. And you can look on their YouTube channel to see all the negative comments attached to the first video, but then also the drop in views attached to the second video because people were just like, I'm not wasting my time again. So we're off to a bad start. Then they finally announced the product, the Nano Cortex. Now for me, being an old head, when I hear something named Nano, my mind first goes to products like the iPod Nano or an iPod Mini, where the product itself is the same thing as the original product, but smaller, simplified package, something a bit more affordable, but still carrying most of the functions that the original product carried. Unfortunately, that's not what we got with the Nano Cortex. To which my first thought when I heard of the Nano Cortex, I got excited because I thought of it being a smaller, more affordable version of the Quad Cortex, something that would be simplified in terms of its features, but still offering most of the capabilities of the Quad Cortex without having to throw down, $1,700? But yeah, that's not what we got. Instead, what we got is a device that Neural DSP put a large emphasis on the fact that it's a means of capturing your amps. There was also a lot of emphasis put on the idea of being able to access other presets from other people within the guitar community on the Cortex cloud. But for me personally, I'm not really a fan of this cloud-based access to other people's impulse responses, presets, all that stuff. I don't need an infinite array of options. I don't need to have all these different variables available at my feet. I just want something that works, that will do the things that I want it to do, and then I'm happy with it. And if I want to change it around at all, I can do that. And I don't have to go and do a bunch of software stuff to make the hardware work to my liking. But yeah, at the end of the day, the Nano Cortex is a device for capturing the sound of your amplifiers, which for its price point, I guess if that's something that you really want to be able to do and have an absolute replica of what your amplifiers sound like, you might find use in it, but how many times are you going to find use for that? So it doesn't seem like it's something that's really useful for most people, unless you're the type of person who's a studio engineer who has a bunch of amplifiers, but don't want to keep them in whatever space you're doing most of your work in, but you have access to those sounds in a digital format. In that case, sure, it's going to work just fine for you. Neural also markets this device as being a standalone audio interface that you can use for recording guitar. But odds are, if you're a returning Neural DSP customer, you already have an audio interface that you've been using with all their plugins. So why would you need another interface to attach to your interface to record guitar? Like, to me, it's just adding another avenue to a process that I imagine most guitarists and musicians in general out there are trying to make as simple as possible so they can accomplish their goals creatively and continue to move forward from there. On top of all that, the other aspect that it seems like a lot of people are unhappy about is the fact that the signal chain on the device is fixed. You can't move and rearrange things around. And it looks like there's no spot for an overdrive or distortion. You have spots for delay and reverb and some sort of modulation. But prior to that, you don't have a spot for a distortion of any sort. So I don't know how that would work. I'm sure they explained it in the video, giving a rundown on the device, but I believe it's over an hour long. And after the first 2 promo videos, I kind of don't care. And sure, the company says that because of its small size, you have the ability to incorporate it into your current pedal board setup. But I don't feel like it's really functional that if you're using a pedal board to now add what's essentially a computer on a pedal board with a bunch of other outstanding external effects. I don't see how that works. And to go through making it work seems like it's a whole journey in itself. So for the amount of money that's attached to the price tag of this device, it's just like, it's not something that on first impression I find to be really exciting and intriguing, something that immediately gets me thinking, ooh, how could I get that incorporated into my setup? And while they're making efforts now to make it so that you can, a long-standing complaint with customers that have the Quad Cortex is that you haven't been able to incorporate the plugins into making presets on the Quad Cortex. They're starting to make that possible with the Quad Cortex and the Nano Cortex, but I feel like they should have made it so more than just 2 options were available when they did the rollout for the Nano Cortex. That would at least be more of a selling point and get people hyped about grabbing this piece of gear. Honestly, if they went about the rollout for promotion for this device in a more subtle manner, I think that the backlash wouldn't have been as rampant as it currently is. But they decided that now was the time to put out a 2-part movie in promotion of a new product. And yeah, it's not living up to the hype that they built. Like, overall, the Nano Cortex feels like an offering from Neural that, like, it's serving purposes that no one really needs or really asked for as customers. And because there's been these outstanding issues with customers that have bought products in the past from the company, to have this be the new product that they're rolling out, it's not really serving as a solution to these outstanding problems. And so there's really no motivation for existing customers to say, oh yeah, I got to buy it. I got to buy that right now. Like, I think for most people at the end of the day, if you're looking for the capabilities that come with the Quad Cortex, you're going to drop the money to get the Quad Cortex. Unless they make something that is a smaller, more improved version of that same device, you know, why would you buy something else that isn't quite doing what the other product can do already? It reminds me of when I was working at a music store that didn't have any products from Fender or Gibson. We had guitars from G&L, Breedlove, and Dean. So, like, we had a whole bunch of Razorbacks. We had a bunch of G&L Strats that are fine. They're fully functional guitars. They all work just fine. Same thing with the Breedlove guitars. However, when customers came in looking to get themselves a Strat, I had to say, well, and then give the whole backstory about G&L as a company and how, like, these guitars are technically better, if not the same quality as the Fenders. The response would always be the same. Those people were coming in to buy themselves a Strat. They were coming in to get themselves a Les Paul or an SG, and we didn't have it. And, you know, rather than settle on something that's not quite what they're looking for, considering the amount of money that they're going to be throwing down, they're going to go somewhere else. And they did. Because people want to buy the things that they want. There's very few instances, unless you're dealing with someone who doesn't know what they want right out the gate, that you could convince them to get something different. If someone comes in because they're obsessed with John Mayer or Jimi Hendrix or Eric Clapton and they have a Stratocaster in their mind, that's what they want. You can't show them a G&L with their weird single coil pickups that are like split 3 and 3 and say, no, this is just the same thing. It's just as good. Because they're going to say, no, it's not. Because it's not what I see when I'm watching Eric Clapton or when I'm watching Jimi Hendrix. I know what I want. And as I was saying in my video talking about the Tom Morello plugin that Neural have released not too long ago, the problem with that plugin is that what it's offering isn't anything new. It's nothing that's getting customers excited like customers used to get excited about their previous endeavors, like the Tim Henson plugin that has the multi-voicer, or the Rabia Masad plugin that has the synthesizer built into it. You just have these pitch shifter pedals incorporated into it that you can also find in the Gojira plugin, along with a Marshall amp, and you know, like that's kind of it. Nothing new was really being offered, and so that's why when they introduced that into their collection, people were kind of underwhelmed, to say the least. But let me stop beating up Neural DSP and let's talk about the company Dunlop, who recently put out a promotional video featuring Dave Navarro playing guitar and using a wah pedal. A wah pedal that has a giant Supreme logo on it. For those who don't know, Supreme is one of those companies that gets their notoriety from the fact that their products that they make in collaboration with other companies mostly are in limited quantities. And so there's a prestige attached to it where like, I gotta get it because there's only so many of them. And then once they're gone, I have one, but then like most of the population doesn't have it. They're not made for mass production. And so, okay, fine. Maybe it's something new. It's something different. They did something different as far as the sweep in the wah. It's got some other settings on it, like some of the other wah pedals that Dunlop offers. But no, it's just the Dunlop GCB 95 with a red sparkle paint finish and a Supreme logo on the top of it. What's even weirder about it is that they put out this promo video with Dave Navarro, who has nothing to do with the pedal at all, but also it's not listed on Dunlop's website. It's on Supreme's website, but you would think it would at least be on Dunlop's as well. And I know that it's not there because while I was researching, trying to find out information about it, I went to Dunlop's website to try to find it. And instead of finding it, I realized that Dunlop has so many wah pedals. There's so many signature wah pedals. How many variations can you do to wah? How many? It's like an unrealistic number of wah pedals they have to offer on their website. I was baffled scrolling through because it's like a full page on their website. And it left me asking, who's this Supreme pedal for? If you're someone who is a collector of Supreme items, are you a guitar player or are you just a collector? Are you Kirk Hammett? He's got his own wah. He doesn't need another one. He's Kirk Hammett. So like, I don't get it. And it's literally a wah pedal that they already offer on their website that you can get for probably a fraction of what the cost of the Supreme collab version of it is going to be. Like, this is just a spitball idea in my head, but if Dunlop wanted to do something new and interesting and intriguing to customers, rather than put out another wah pedal that is just another version of something they already have, they could do something different. Like make a software version of their wah, like a plug-in version that comes with some hardware that you can physically manipulate the treadle pedal on and use it in conjunction with your DAW and literally manipulate the wah in real time in the real world. Like having something like that and having it so that you can connect it and even use it with other plugins. Like if you wanted to use it with the wah pedal that's in the Corey Wong plugin from Neural DSP, I think people would find a real function to that and would gravitate towards that. Because Neural's really bad at letting people know what kind of hardware works with their software. I'm just saying. But to have something that's dedicated to doing the thing and that you can use in a digital format, Who's not going to want that? I believe Electro Harmonix already did that with one of their pedals where they offered it in a hardware form, but it connects directly to your interface and you can use it in real time when recording and use it like with whatever impulse responses and digital amps that you have. That's awesome. And it makes sense as a product rather than just putting out another solely external effect that you have to run in a line in front of an amp. So yeah, this is another company that's marketing a new product that isn't really anything new. It's not offering something unique and new to the public that's going to get people excited about it. And yeah, I think there's room to do different and better things, but I don't know what the motivation of these companies are. However, to flip things on the opposite side, let's talk about a company that just rolled out a product that is something really cool and unique that I think that people are going to find a lot of use from, or just to find something really unique to include in their rig. Enter the Fender Jack White Pano-Verb amplifier. Now, in addition to this amp, they also rolled out like signature Jack White Stratocasters and acoustic sonic guitars, but like, that's besides the point. Let's talk about this amplifier because I think it's really cool. For a while now, Jack White's been doing a lot of collaborations with a bunch of companies, either under his name or with Third Man Hardware, and everything that he puts out has been something that's been really noteworthy and unique. And I think that there's a wealth of people that gravitate towards it and want to get their hands on it, which is what you presumably want as a company that's making these products. You want people to be excited to buy them. You want people to be standing in line shouting, "Shut up and take my money," when you introduce a new product into the world. So let's talk about some of the features of this amplifier. So for one, there's 3 different channels that are on it. I believe you have your EQ, then there's reverb, and then there's tremolo. And for the tremolo and the reverb channels, what's really cool on its face is that the knob for the volume has a click over 0 on the master knob. So like, you know definitively that it's off. There's no leakage of reverb or tremolo coming through. You know that it's just off. So like, that's already a feature that they don't have on other Fender amps unless you go and get it customized aftermarket. And it's just there when you buy it. The amp itself has 2 different size speakers, a 15-inch and a 10-inch. And so the 15-inch speaker is going to be giving you more of a bass response in terms of its frequencies, while the smaller 10-inch speaker is going to be giving you more high and mid frequencies. And basically what this is going to allow you to do is, if you're using 2 mics, you have a different frequency response from the 2 different speakers, and you can blend them together and just get different sounds from the same amp, which, depending on what your recording situation is, it might make for a decent option in terms of like doing rhythm tracks, where you have one mic on one speaker and then do a second track on the other speaker. Something like that. It gives you more options, but that's not all. On the section of the amp for the harmonic tremolo, you have the option for a stereo or mono output of the tremolo. So either you have the tremolo coming through just one speaker, or you have it going through both, and it gives you this sort of pulsating thing. That sounds really cool, especially if you have both speakers mic'd up in a live setting or even in recording, where it's a stereo effect. So like, that's pretty cool, and that's not something that you'll find on other combo amps from Fender. The reverb channel, already it's running after your guitar. It's not in the preamp section. And so you're getting more clarity at the front than you would with like a standard Fender amp. But again, there's a switch for stereo or mono, where you can have one speaker running a dry signal while one's got the reverb coming through. And so like, in a live setting, you can have a microphone in front of the speaker that's got the reverb, and that's what's going out from the house, while you have one microphone in front of the other speaker that's the dry signal going to your monitors. So you're not getting inundated with all the reverb and whatnot, but it's still coming through to your audience. This could also be a function that you can utilize in recording as well. If you want to have a guitar track that's not being affected by the reverb, while still recording a track with that same guitar with reverb on it. One of my favorite features on this amp is that there's a decal on the top of it that just indicates where the power switch is on the back of the amp. And if you've ever owned a Fender combo in your life, you'll understand how useful this feature is, because otherwise, like, you go to turn off the amp or put it on standby, you end up turning it off, and it's so much easier now to know which switch is your power switch just from looking at it. Like, it's a small detail, but it makes a world of difference, honestly. And there's a whole bunch of other features about this amplifier that, while it won't be something for everyone, neither was the multi-voicer in the Tim Henson plugin from Neural or the synthesizer for the Rabea Masad. But it was still something interesting attached to the other amps and effects built into the plugin. A unique factor that makes people gravitate towards it and say, you know, that's something new, that's something I don't already have, let me check it out. So yeah, it would be great if companies would stop just blindly attaching themselves to other companies and individual artists that they do these collaborations with that aren't really bringing anything new to the table as far as stuff that the public is looking for. Because it seems to leave people feeling like they're not getting a product that they really want. And this kind of ties into the idea of not ever creating any art for other people. Like, create stuff that is for you. And if other people happen to like it, cool. Because as soon as you start trying to make stuff for one section of the public, there's going to be another section that's going to say, hey, that's not what I wanted. And then you got to deal with that. And then you try to overcorrect. Or you do what companies like Neural DSP do, and you go into the comments on social media and snap back at people that are leaving negative comments. Like that's doing anything productive. Like, if you as a company, someone who represents a company, or an artist who is working with that company, feel the need to respond to people in the comments underneath a post that is announcing this new product that you had a hand in creating, when they give you negative feedback, you lost the plot. Like, that's not it. Really, it should be a moment for you to say, okay, we hear you. Give us time to readjust and work on making something that you're going to be happy about. Especially when, like, it's seemingly the majority of people that are chiming in. Because in all these cases, people are throwing down a bunch of money. People are opening up credit cards, which don't do that. Don't do that. But they're throwing down a bunch of money for whatever product that you're putting out. And if it turns out after the fact that it's not meeting their expectations, you're gonna hear negative feedback from it. Especially if there's outstanding concerns and issues with the stuff that they've already invested money in, and a pool of people are saying, hey, there's this thing, we would really love for you to address it, and then you're like, we hear you, here's something completely different. That's not great. That's not great. But yeah, I don't know, like, this is kind of like the equivalent of a company doing a big rollout for an overdrive pedal. Is it any different than the other 300 gazillion overdrive pedals that are out in the world already? Probably not. There's not much variation you can do to overdrive, except like add more saturation on the gain knob, I guess, and then you're going from a overdrive to a distortion. But yeah, I just feel like companies, as long as we're doing this sort of approach to releasing products to the world where, like, you're taking into account what people are asking for and feeding off of what you see on social media, you should, like, I don't know, give people what they want. You did this to yourselves, so, you know, follow through with that. You can't, like, change course now and be like, we're gonna do something different. We heard what you had to say, but we're gonna basically ignore it and put out something completely different than what you were asking for. I don't know. Is there a market for people to get the Nano Cortex? Maybe. Perhaps. If it's something that you might find use in, sure. If it's just something that you want to buy because you got money to burn, have at it. If you need another wah pedal and it says Supreme on it and that's your bag, that's what you want, get it, I guess. But It doesn't seem like that's a lot of people. That's just what I think. So yeah, that's my 2 cents on the topic. I hope you found today's video to be interesting and informative. And if there's other instances of this sort of stuff that you can think of, feel free to leave them down below in the comments and we can talk about it. If you don't like what I had to say today, feel free to let me know in the comments and we can talk about it. And if you haven't already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Get this video out into the algorithm. Let more people be able to see it. It's free. Help a brother out. And other than that, I will see you guys soon. As long as I'm able to speak after tomorrow's surgery, I'll be back as soon as I can be. But in the meantime, keep playing. Peace.